Hello everyone, welcome to the exam tips for P2 for December 2017. Before we start, just a quick recap about what the exam structure is. So the first question we have is a 50 marker, which is a compulsory question and broken down into consolidation for 35 marks and remaining 15 marks on accounting standards and ethics. We then move on to section B, where we have to answer 2 out of the 3 questions, 2 of them being on accounting standards and 1 being on current issues. The way you need to approach this is in question 1, because there was a cash flow in September 17, the chances of that coming up are slightly lesser. So if I were you, I would focus a little bit more on the balance sheet, the SOFP and the income statement. Whilst practicing these questions, make sure, and when you are applying it in the exam as well, if it's the balance sheet, the SOFP, make sure that you are starting off with those first 3 notes. The majority of the marks are for those subsidiaries, the consolidation. And you try to focus and practice those complex groups as well, like the D-shaped group or the vertical complex group, which hasn't been tested for a while. Remember, whilst you're doing that question 1, so whether it's the balance sheet or the income statement, you don't overrun on your time. Time management is very, very critical for that question 1 part A, because there are so many things in there which will drag you down, which will want to waste your time, especially the accounting adjustments. So the idea is to focus on whatever you can. Try to focus on the consolidation part, the first 3 notes, and for the adjustments, whatever you can, make an attempt and be able to move on quickly. Have the ability not to waste time. Even when you practice at home, practice by looking at the time as well. It's very easy to say that we'll get it right in the exam, but till you don't practice it, guys, you won't be able to do it in the exam within that time amount of 67 or 68 minutes. Remember, you have 1.9 minutes per mark. You have a 3-hour, 15 minutes exam, so it's 1.9 to 95 minutes per mark. If it's the income statement, remember the column approach that we had. We made the parents column, the subsidiary columns, and we had the consolidation. When you have an income statement, there is usually a focus on disposals, so you should practice how we do disposals as well. And the same logic applies. Manage your time, focus on the first 3 notes. In the question 1, what then you got to move on to is make sure you spend some time on that part B and part C, which is part B on accounting standards, but relatively easier compared to section B. The way you approach that is you practice, go through the knowledge of various accounting standards. There isn't any trend in what comes up there. It could be F7 or P2 stuff as well. Finally, you have part C, which is the ethics. Regarding the ethics, make sure that there is something unethical happening. You talk about that, you address that issue, and you speak about that particular scenario. Yes, there are marks for talking about the knowledge of ethics, but the main marks are for applying that knowledge into that scenario. So practice question 1 part C's from past papers to be able to do it correctly and score highly on those 7 to 8 markers. We then come to section B, where things start going slightly wrong for most of our students, because they tend to just learn information, whereby question 2 and question 3, which is what we aim for in the exam, is all about applying those standards into that scenario. So you've been given some scenarios, you got to read that information. 40% of the marks approximately are for the knowledge, so you write the knowledge of the standard, and then you must stop writing the knowledge and go and apply the scenario. Talk about the scenario, what is happening there, what are the implications. Try to practice different scenarios that we've done in class with different industries, different accounting standards. Don't ignore the F7 standards also. Whilst doing this, I know if you're listening to this video, you want to know a handful of standards. If I were you, I would still at least bare minimum do a summary of everything, because if you don't know the standard, you can't even start the question. So if you want me to name a few, which again I say it's a dangerous ploy, but if you want to know the top few standards for P2, make sure you know the leases specifically for this setting, since leases got changed from September 17. You know the revenue, the fair value measurements, the financial instruments, and the pensions, which are the regularly tested. Doesn't mean the others don't come up, but at least do these. For the F7, if you want to see the top 5 of them, make sure you go through the PPE, the intangibles, you go through the impairment, you go through held for sale and provisions. So these are the commonly tested F7 topics as well. Whilst doing all of this, please remember not to get bogged down by difficult bits. If you've gone through the revision sessions, there is enough that you know to be able to get a good pass mark. 60s, even 70s, sometimes even more. But don't get stuck by trying to go for everything and being perfect in those answers, because there are many things that you might not have seen, you might not know at that moment. The key is to keep moving on, to keep a positive mindset, and hopefully, like I said, you will have a good exam, and I hope to see you all smiling on 5th of December. So good luck, and thank you very much for listening.